I'm so sick of defending myself over this because it's my journey, my life, my experience. All I'm doing is telling my story. What's up, my BBs? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I will be doing a little rehab Q&A. I asked you guys on Instagram for any of your rehab questions, from personal to the most basic questions, whatever you guys are wondering. I know you probably had a lot of questions after that last video because I did reveal a lot of information. I got mostly positive comments. There were a few people who were like, rehab for weed, and that's just something I kind of wanted to touch on before I get started. I did not go to rehab just for weed. If you did, like, there's no problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But I went to rehab for both weed, my substance abuse, and borderline personality disorder. So, get your facts right before you come at me. But anyway, like I said, if you went to rehab just for substance abuse with weed, addiction to weed, good for you for getting the help you need. Oh, that rhymed. But anyways, let's begin with these questions. So I'm going to start off with probably the most controversial question I got, as in my answer is going to be controversial. And that is, do you drink alcohol occasionally or do you stay completely sober? I want to start by saying the way I deal with my recovery is up to me. No one gets to judge what I do and how I deal with my recovery. That was kind of redundant, but I do drink occasionally. I really don't like drinking that much. I kind of do it socially. Since I've been 21, which has been 8 months, I've gone to the bar on my birthday, Halloween, and then this past weekend. Like, I don't drink often at all. There's my stomach issues. My stomach's very sensitive. I can't drink a lot, and if I couldn't, to get drunk, my stomach would hurt too much, so I can't get to that point, if that makes any sense. But a lot of the times in Narcotics Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous, they say that having a problem with weed, a lot of the times it'll lead to other addictions. In NA, I think it says believing alcohol is not a drug has caused users to relapse, something like that. And I totally get that, but for me, I have a good support system. I still go to my MA meetings. I have never claimed to be sober from everything. I've never gotten a chip at an AA meeting if I've ever gone. I always say I am sober from drugs. And again, I know some people think alcohol is a drug, and it may as well be. I don't know how to word this, but I do drink occasionally. If you have a problem with me calling myself sober from drugs, then I'm sorry, but it's my story and I choose how I write it. Now that I got that out of the way, do you think that going helped your mental health / thinking along with your sobriety? Yes. So like I said, we had 4 groups a day, 5 days a week. That's a lot of therapy, as well as 1 to 2 sessions with your therapist every week, and then you met with your psychiatrist once a week for medication. So I learned so much. It was kind of, I don't want to say it was like throw all the cupcakes at the wall and like see what sticks kind of thing, but I really learned what works for me and what doesn't. And it helped me, like, in the later groups, incorporate that into my life and, like, look at situations in the past where I could have used these skills or where I could have handled it differently, and that helps me in the future. And then with my sobriety, like, we went to 6 meetings a week. I didn't like all of them, but you don't have to like all of them. You find the meetings you like, you find your people, even though they're all very similar with the concept of getting sober. Like, I have been to NA, AA, and MA, and the first step is still, you admitted you were powerless over marijuana, alcohol, drugs, and that your life had become unmanageable. And then the rest of the steps are the same. So they are very similar. I'm kind of getting off track, but it definitely helped being around people who shared similar experiences to me, and because it helps you feel like you're not alone, and that makes you want to get better more, I guess, because you don't feel crazy. Anyway, was it hard to go through the journey, and did you experience withdrawals? I assume you mean withdrawals, unless, are withdrawals a thing? Oh wow, okay, so I searched withdrawals just to make sure I'm not missing anything, and the first thing that comes up is, does marijuana cause withdrawals? Huh, This is from recoveryfirst.org, just the first thing that comes up. While marijuana is often viewed as a more benign drug, it is addiction and can result in physical dependence. Withdrawal symptoms from marijuana are generally mild, though uncomfortable. Let's see what else this says. All right, reduced appetite, anxiety, paranoia, restlessness, fearing irritable, strange dreams, sleep issues. So, yes. This was before I was in rehab because I think I told you I went to rehab on June 5th. My sobriety date is June 1st. And so last time I smoked was May 31st. I remember I hit a stizzy in a car. That was my last time smoking. This happened each time I stopped smoking whenever my stomach would start to get bad from the CHS, and I knew I had to stop smoking. I would get the chills, sweats, super irritable and anxiety ridden. My nausea would be bad. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. And a lot of people say, you can't, like, marijuana doesn't cause that. Then what did I go through? And what did all of these other people go through that have experienced the same thing as me? So call me crazy. I don't care. I know what I went through. I feel like this video is just me defending myself. And I'm so sick of defending myself over this because it's my journey, my life, my experience. All I'm doing is telling my story. I'm not telling anyone how to act. Mic drop. But anyway, so I did experience some of that. It lasts for about a week or two maybe, and then it starts to get better. But yeah, the journey was definitely very, very hard because I never really go away from home. I spent a year at San Diego State, and that I ended up coming home a lot towards the end because it was just a train ride home. Then I stayed home for my second year of school and commuted, and now I live at home. Like, I'm not one to like to be away from home. And so being away from home, especially at the beginning, I told you guys how hard it was at the beginning. Not being able to use a phone, like my entire lifestyle was changing, and I didn't even have my parents like right next to me for that. It was hard. And so the homesickness was something that really, really got in the way at the beginning. And then once I got a little more comfortable, made some friends around me, then it started to get easier and I could start to learn more about myself and about sobriety and mental health and all that. What were you addicted to, the high or the act of smoking? Definitely the high, because I think I've said this multiple times, there was like a poster in one of our group therapy rooms that said, you are not addicted to drugs or alcohol, you are addicted to escaping reality, something like that. And it was just whenever I was upset, anxious, depressed, anything, I didn't want to have to think about it. And so I would smoke and forget all about it. I would laugh at everything. I would go to sleep, anything. And so it just completely numbed the pain. And this kind of goes back to how hard it was. So when I stopped smoking, I had to feel everything. And that was just really hard. I mean, the smoking, I definitely do sometimes miss ripping a bong, smoking a joint, and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, the oral fixation, I do miss. But it was definitely the high that I was addicted to. What advice would you give someone going into rehab for the first time? I mean, I feel like I can only give advice from what I've experienced and what I've heard from others. It's not going to be easy. I mean, I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. Going in, I was like, I need to go to rehab. I just want to come out of it so I can be happy. But there's a lot in between. A lot of the times I would think, this is a mistake. I shouldn't be here. I don't belong here, blah, blah, blah. But I definitely needed to be there. I mean, just thinking of the first step, my life had become completely unmanageable. Like I said in my last video, I was miserable all the time. I could not manage my life without smoking. And that's just really unhealthy. Some people can live a very productive lifestyle and smoking helps them so much. Another disclaimer, like, I am not against weed in any way. I think it can be so amazing for so many people. I've said this so many times. People still tend to think that I'm against smoking, and I'm not. It just wasn't right for me. And so again, going to rehab, it's hard, but it's so worth it. And you just have to remember that even if you don't think it's working, a lot of the times it is. I remember being on a call with my parents, and they were like, after like 2 weeks, and they were like, oh, well, do you think it's working? I'm like, no, like, I just haven't like had an outburst in 2 weeks. And they're like, well, that's a lot of progress. And I thinking back, I'm like, it was. And like thinking back on my last day, like in my goodbye group, like I said, I didn't think I was going to get to that point. I didn't think I was going to be in a place where I could see myself living without weed, where I could see myself having somewhat stable mental health. But there I was at the end, and here I am now. Did you realize once you got to rehab you had a problem, or did you know while smoking weed? I knew. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this question because I think I've talked about this a lot, but it was a point where once I realized, I remember being like right there, which is like in front of my window, smoking, and my stomach was hurting, and right when it felt better I wanted to smoke again, and just the fact that I knew it was causing harm to my body, and I didn't care, I didn't want to do anything about it, I just wanted to numb the pain. That's when I knew I had a problem. How do you feel now that you got out of rehab? Everything is very surreal. I don't know if that's gonna make a lot of sense, but like when I look back at rehab, I'm like, wow, like I went through that. Like my parents framed my certificate on my wall. I'm not gonna show it because it has my full name and the place I went to on it, but it has the dates I was there, certificate of completion, and like that's like in my eye view, whatever, all the time. And just like looking at that and like realizing what I've been through, it makes everything so worth it. Makes like all the pain that I went through, and now the fact that I can share my story with others is such a rewarding feeling. There's one message I've gotten many so nice messages, but just saying that like I helped them so much, and they ended it with, thank you so much for your life-changing story, please keep doing what you do. And it's messages like that that make me want to keep sharing my story and my experience, because if I can help one person, then I feel like I've done something good. And so just the fact that people can relate to what I'm saying and that I can help them is just, it means the world to me, and I'm so happy I can make a difference because that's all I want to do. Was there anyone that wasn't supportive of you in your recovery? How did you deal with that? Not really. There was not anyone who wasn't supportive of me. I keep a very small circle, as I've said, and everyone in my life was just they were very supportive. They're like, we will miss you so much, but like, we know you need to get better. We know you're not satisfied with your life right now and that it's not going well, so we just want to see you happy. I would say, if anything, it was when I came back like to Instagram, the little trolls were the non-supportive ones, but no one in my life, in my close circle, my family, my friends, no one was not supportive. Everyone was supportive. Why did you all of a sudden want to share your story? Did someone else motivate you, or was it just something that you feel has been weighing you down? So I wanted to share my story because, like, I didn't at first, because I apologize, the lighting's kind of changing. I'm using a lot of natural light right now. I wasn't sure if it was something I wanted to make public, the fact that I went to rehab, just because of the stigma with rehab. And so, but then I continued sharing my story, and I just feel like rehab is a huge chunk of my journey, and I felt like I needed to include that to tell my full story, because otherwise there's just some missing pieces to it. If you looked at my journey, like, yes, I took a social media break, I didn't have my phone, I don't know, some people did piece it together, but I felt like it was such a huge part of my story, and I wanted to include it from now on, if that makes sense. Alright, these are kind of fun. Did you get to paint your nails and do your makeup while in rehab? So, yes and no. Well, yes. I didn't bring any makeup at the beginning, and then my parents brought it to me like a few weeks later. I did my makeup like when I wanted to like make my announcement on Instagram and start taking some pictures, just getting back into my passions again. I feel like that's kind of what got me started with makeup again. My nails, I had acrylics on for my entire time there. I swear, quick little story, when I went to the nail lady to get them filled, I'll see if I can show a picture, if I can find a picture of what they looked like. I felt like I was going to the dentist and like, they say, you haven't flossed, have you? She was like, oh, these have been grown out for like a month. And I wanted to be like, did you just look into my soul? Like, how did you know that? I mean, obviously it's what they do, but yeah. So, but I kept my acrylics on in rehab because I tend to pick at my nails, like for anxiety and stuff. I don't bite them, I just pick at them. And so that's why I have acrylics on. And then once you hit a certain point, like when you get your phone back and when you move down to PHP, primary hospitalization, move down as in like, it's actually move up, kind of. It's more freedom. You get to go on pass. And I actually never went on pass, and I'll kind of explain why in a second. But when you go on pass, you basically just have to write where you're going, what time you're going, who you're going to be with, anything like that. And then when you come back from pass, you have to get breathalyzed and a urinalysis. And I have this is so weird, but I have such anxiety over peeing in a cup. Like, I can't pee under pressure, which is something people laugh at me for, but I don't know, I just like, they would have to give me like almost a day notice if they needed me to pee in a cup, because I would have to drink so much water. Even like it would bring me so much anxiety. I don't know why. It's just something, I don't know. But so I never went on PASS for that reason. And I remember the clinical director was talking to me at the end. They were like, we're worried, like you haven't been on PASS and like you're about to go back into the real world. I'm like, I just don't want to pee in a cup. I'll be fine. So yeah, I never went on PASS. After going to rehab, have you ever thought of smoking again? It's hard for me to stay sober. Help me. Well, I'm wishing you the best of luck with your sobriety. I think about smoking every day. I mean, it's been 9 months, and it's probably because I was so in that community, and I don't think of it necessarily as a bad thing that I still think about it a lot. It was a huge part of my life. It was like my identity. But as I've said before, I have to take things one day at a time, because I can only control what I do today. Tomorrow, I'll worry about tomorrow, but today I'm only going to focus on today. I think I said, I asked someone that in rehab. I was like, do you think you'll ever smoke again? And they were like, I'm taking it one day at a time. And I'm like, that's smart. So yeah, I try not to future trip and think about whether or not I'm ever going to smoke again. I just focus on what I'm doing now with my life. So that is it for my questions. I might do a part 2 to this video if I get more questions. Let me know in the comments if you have any more questions to include in another video, or just any other video ideas, or just topics you want me to talk about. Let me know. I'm getting a little creative block here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give it a thumbs up, go subscribe if you haven't. I put out new videos weekly, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.